In my soul, I knew I couldn't do anything else. Like as soon as I had that moment where I had that conversation with that friend of mine, it just ignited something within me.
Welcome back to My Best Pal. I'm your host, Diana Lanham, and my guest today is Susan Padron. Susan is an intuitive personal stylist, and she's going to be sharing her story about how she finally got the courage to take a risk, follow her passion, and start living her next best self. Susan, welcome.
Thank you.
This has been such a fun session. We worked with two guests, Laura and Rosie, who got the chance to go through Susan's process. Susan had an initial virtual meet and greet with each of them, including a tour of their closets, to get a sense of who they are and, more importantly, find out how they were looking to level up their style. After flying all the way out to Seattle from Philadelphia, Susan got to meet with Laura and Rosie here in our studio while they tried on the pieces that she had chose for them. We then got to sit down with both ladies and hear their thoughts on the whole experience. Their session will directly follow Susan's episode. Now, this session is all about you. I want to hear your story about your journey to get here and the change that you made to make yourself happy and follow your passion.
Sure. So for as long as I can remember, when I was old enough to go to the mall with my friends, I always loved picking things out for other people, especially my friends, being able to choose things for them that, they would never pick out for themselves. And then they'd be able to put it on and see themselves the way that I see them. When I was growing up, I never even knew that being a personal stylist, a wardrobe stylist, I didn't know that it was a career. I didn't know that it was something that I could do, because really the only exposure that I had growing up, which most of us I think can attest to, are the different makeover shows where you see these stylists who sometimes ambush strangers and they say, everything you're doing is wrong. Let's do something better.
Let's just do you. Let's do you over.
Everything, like head to toe. You're wrong. Well, I was drawn to those kind of shows. I always knew that there was something about it that wasn't resonating with me. And it wasn't until I went through really my own personal journey with self-discovery and bringing in style as a key element to that I realized that it wasn't just about the clothes. It wasn't just about getting a new hairstyle, putting on some makeup and, the right outfit. It's about taking what's inside and connecting that to your outer expression and using style as the medium for that.
One of the things that I love about working with Laura and Rosie and watching your process is there were a couple outfits that they tried on that we all responded to. Everyone here who was on the crew and stuff, we were like, oh, they look fantastic, you look fantastic, all that. And they were still getting those accolades, and even though they liked it, it wasn't them. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about some people pushing back on change. Like, yeah, it's just not me, because they were both very open-minded.
Yeah, they were.
But sometimes, even if it makes you look better, you don't necessarily feel better. Because sometimes it's just, you have an issue with that color, not because of the way it looks on you. There's something about that color that is triggering.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes, you look great in those pants, but you're like, no, this reminds me of something. Mm-hmm. This reminds me of my mother's tracksuit.
Right.
And it triggers me, right?
Yeah.
And so that was something, about makeover shows, going, to your comment about makeover shows. Yes, they'll come out and they have their hair done and their makeup done and they're wearing this beautiful outfit and they look fantastic, but they're like, I will not move through the world this way, right? I love it. I can appreciate it. And I understand, how it was put together, but this isn't me. And I'm not going to be comfortable. And I probably will only wear this one time.
Right.
And that's something that you did with Rosie and Laura. You explained every item of clothing that you pulled out and showed them. You explained why you picked that outfit, and you tied it back to the first conversation that you had with them when they were walking you through their closet.
Yeah.
And they were telling you who they were and why they made certain choices and what they were hoping to get out of this show, right?
I never knew that becoming a personal stylist was something that I could pursue, right? I am from outside of Philadelphia, and it always seemed like if you were going to be a personal stylist, that's a New York or an LA thing. That's how I categorized it in my mind at the time. So it was just something that I enjoyed, but never even on my radar as a career option. So my other passion was music, and I became a middle school band director.
Did you look like this?
I looked very fabulous.
I'm sure everyone
oh my gosh.
loved their band teacher if this is what you look like.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I always had fun getting dressed. That was always something that was very much part of me. My style and enjoying the process, always been part of my identity. I was teaching for a few years and I loved it. It was my life. And then things started to change, and my husband and I decided that we were ready to start a family. And I took a year off from teaching to be at home with my son. But when I was at home with him that first year, my husband lost his job. I went back to teaching, and during that time, my mental health was the worst that I think it's ever been. My anxiety was just through the roof between my husband losing his job, having, a baby at home, and going back to a career that I no longer felt connected to. Public education's tough. And it wasn't the students. I loved my students. I loved teaching. I loved teaching music. But it was everything else that
administration and operations.
Right, that comes into it that really can prevent teachers from teaching. I was still helping my friends pick out clothes for different events, still just something that I had on the back burner, little hobby, passion. And it was right around the time when one of the clothing subscription services was really popular. And a friend of mine just said to me, she's like, I like what you pick out for me way more than what I get in my monthly box. You should work for one of those companies. And I said, absolutely not. If I'm leaving teaching, it is not to work for somebody else. I'm going to work for myself, which was kind of a scary realization for me. This whole period of time, leading up to my decision to become a personal stylist, leading up to that conversation with my friend, where just her saying that was this light bulb moment for me. It kind of gave me the permission that I didn't even know I was looking for or that I needed.
Isn't that funny how that happens? And you remember the moment.
Absolutely.
You're sitting in your car, you're in the shower, you're taking a walk, and this little moment happens where you're like, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. I knew I couldn't do anything else. As soon as I had that moment where I had that conversation with that friend of mine, it just ignited something within me. And I knew that that's the path that I needed to take. Yeah.
As much as you had that moment, that realization, there's a whole lot of scary stuff that goes with that too.
Yes.
Yeah, and usually it's financial security. It's the number one thing. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, my husband just lost his job.
Yeah.
And here I am being like, you know what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
Start my own business. Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
But, in my soul, I knew I couldn't do anything else. As soon as I had that moment where I had that conversation with that friend of mine, it just ignited something within me. And I knew that that's the path that I needed to take. Yeah. And that whole year was really transformative, from taking that time off to be with my son and having, the issues with my husband and his job and everything. And then I have a very clear memory of standing in my closet when I knew that I'd be going back to work. And I was looking at the clothes in my closet, and they were still clothes that I liked. They were beautiful, beautiful clothes. And most of them, I fit into, or I could make them work for my job. Mm-hmm. But I just remember standing there and looking at the clothes and feeling a disconnect from them and not really being sure where it was coming from. So I was like, I don't get it. These are beautiful clothes. They still fit. Where is that disconnect happening for me? And I realized that it's because of how much I had changed emotionally and as a person, that's where that disconnect was occurring. And it wasn't about the clothes, it was about me, and it was about the journey that I was on. And those clothes represented a beautiful part of my past and a past version of myself. But that version of myself was different than who I was becoming. And that was another really big moment that kind of even shifted the way that I styled my friends and, going even deeper beyond just, oh, I chose this because this is how I see you and it's going to look beautiful on you. It's about, okay, well, who am I?
Like, really, who are you?
Yes.
Yeah, not just like, oh, I'm having a moment and for the next 2 months I want to wear pink every day, or I now want to only wear black or whatever. It's when you are truly at a different phase in your life and you are a different person inside.
Exactly. Yeah. The person that I was becoming, the person that was a new mom, that was working through, like actually taking care of my mental health in a way that I never had to before and never really thought that I would, go in that path either, because I have a history with anxiety, and even from a young age, I would have anxiety attacks. And I just remember that being part of my normal.
Well, were you going through like traditional postpartum?
So my son is now 9.5. And I remember going through with my postpartum, like doctor's appointments and, filling out the postpartum depression forms that they had at the time. And, being able to address the forms and saying, this is not how I'm feeling, but I know what I'm feeling is also not okay. And what I learned after, much later, was that I was experiencing postpartum anxiety. So I wasn't having any kind of like self-harming thoughts or, any kind of beliefs like that towards my son. It was more just, I felt like I was in fight or flight all the time. Like my nervous system was just shot. And I would go from feeling normal to anxiety attacks without any kind of buildup. It was just like a switch that would be like flipped on or off. I remember having a lot of stigma at the time around medication and taking any kind of medication for treatment for anxiety, because this is something that I had and dealt with my whole life. I was on medication as a teenager, but it was for a brief period of time. And at the time it was, they had different beliefs around how long you should be medicated for mental health. And now we know that, and with all the different options that are available now, it's a different situation. And thankfully, another friend that I had at the time was very open about her own mental health journey. And she's like, just talk to your doctor about it. Like, see if it's the right fit for you. And that changed my life too.
It's still surprising that it is such a stigma.
I know.
Yeah, you would think that just with all the awareness that has swirled around it for the last 10 years especially.
I remember how long it took for me to even open up to my family that I was on medication.
Oh, really?
Because there was just, again, like the stigma around...
Of judging. Yeah.
Right.
How was your husband feeling? Because I'm sure he was sleep deprived too, because he's dealing as a new father with a newborn, right? But how was his support? Was he on board or was...
Oh, yeah. I mean, with my treatment, he was absolutely on board. With being on medication, 100%. I'm very fortunate. My husband is an incredible partner. He's an incredible husband. We went through a lot together, especially as new parents do. But our journey together and being able to, for me, release control and ask for help.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I just want to jump in here too and say, because you and your husband have been married for 20 years.
Yeah, we've been together for 20 years.
We're together for 20 years,
Yes.
but you waited for 12 years to have your son, right? I think that probably helped as well.
Oh,
he
for
probably
sure.
knew who, the pre-baby Susan was and the après baby Susan was, right? It wasn't like you just 2 years in or 3 years in, you had a baby and he's like, who is this woman, right? Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we met when I was 18, he was 19, and we've just grown through so many different versions of ourselves, but absolutely. I mean, he knows me better than anyone. Anyone.
Yeah. How long did your postpartum anxiety last?
I would say just about a year. I think, it was about a year, maybe a little bit more, before I started medication. But it really changed my life. And it allowed me to get through continuing to teach and then starting my own business, which, I mean, if you had asked pre-mom Susan, if she would ever be able to start her own business, she would have said, absolutely not. Like,
Why?
that's not for me. That's not the kind of person that I am. I could never do something like that. There was definitely a big internal shift that I went through. And it started with my pregnancy with my son. And it then led into my mental health journey, that period of self-discovery. And that opened up this part of me that said, like, yeah, of course I can start my own business. Like, absolutely.
You've been here for 2 days. Usually I meet the guests the night before and, it's just one day, but we've been able to spend some time together. And I would have never have thought there would have, just from our experience, I would have never thought that you always have the adventurous spirit that I've noticed that you have.
I love that.
And you also seem like a true entrepreneur. I would never have thought that that's something that, going through becoming a new mother and then getting through your postpartum. I wonder if it's always been there, but you had other things you were doing.
I really appreciate you saying that. But if you knew me, especially before becoming a mom, I was shy. I was quiet.
Even as a band teacher?
So it took me a little while to kind of come out of my shell as a band teacher, to really step into my own. But that was really one of those spaces where I felt like, these are the kids that, that want to be here, and we would have fun together and all of that.
You were in your space.
I was in my safe space, yeah. But I was always really cautious around even interacting with other teachers in the building. The first school where I taught, because I taught at 2 different middle schools in the same district, and I was very protective of myself, my energy. I was, I'd be friendly with people, but I was very specific about who I welcomed into my life. Yeah. And everyone else, they would get the surface level version of me, and that was it. And it also took me a while to really understand that I could still be protective of my energy and be protective of myself and my life, but welcome people in and not be as cautious or guarded around people.
That's called boundaries, and it's what we're all fighting it our whole lives. And some people learn it early, some people learn it later.
Definitely.
Right? So what age were the kids that you were teaching?
Middle school.
Oh, yeah.
So 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So they were a lot of fun. Yeah. And it's so funny because when you talk to other teachers, most teachers have their age group that they really connect and bond with. Yeah. And most people are terrified of middle school.
I know. I was going to say, at first I was going to say, oh, that's just such a fun group. And then I was like, oh, the memories kept coming back of my daughter in middle school, which was the worst time ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ever. She loved school. And those 3 years that she was in middle school were torturous.
That was for me too.
Yeah.
They were hands down the worst time of my life. Yeah.
I loved middle school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I love school anyways. Yeah. But yeah, middle school was fun for me, but it was, it's harder these days because now it's 6th, 7th, and 8th instead of when I was going to school, it was 7th, 8th, and 9th. But, the power that kids now have, they're coming out of elementary school, they're not quite, the pre-adults that they get to in high school. And now they have the power of phones pictures and thoughts get put into a phone and can spread like wildfire. Yeah. So that's how middle school kind of was tumultuous for us. But it's also, kids are fun in some, they're going through, that's all the hormones happening, right?
Oh, yeah.
But 7th, 8th, and 9th they're not little kids anymore, and they're starting to have these great ideas, and they're finding their tribes, not a little bit less than what you find in high school and stuff. But that's a lot of energy. And it's different from little kid elementary school energy.
Oh, for sure.
It's a little bit kind of like angry energy. Like you can't tell me anything. Yeah.
You definitely get some of that. It was definitely interesting seeing how the evolution of the kids, because when I was teaching, I taught all 3 grade levels. And so I got to really see the kids go through their journey in middle school and see just the growth that would happen with a lot of them from that, the beginning of 6th grade through the end of their 8th grade
That's
year.
what teachers, one of the things that teachers love about that.
Yeah.
They love seeing the kids grow and, having either the same kids for a couple years or just being in the school. And I remember when you started in kindergarten, now you're heading off to middle school and it's like you help shape that little brain. And I would love that too. So
yeah, it's definitely special.
So getting back to, you had gotten your prescription, had your medication. So, and you said that's where your life changed.
Yeah.
Where the new Susan decided she wanted to have her own business.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming the financial dynamics of your household had changed.
Yes.
I'm sure this didn't happen overnight where
It did
said
not.
you woke up today and said, I'm going to start my own business, Talk to me about how that journey flowed.
My husband was home with our son for a little while, and then he actually started his own business. He was working in construction and just doing kind of like handyman work alongside with a friend of his. And he was afraid, as was the rest of my family, because everybody was kind of looking at me like, I'm sorry, you're doing what now? Like, we support the styling, that's always been a passion. We've seen that in you, like more power to you. But
to make it a business,
teaching? You want to grow a business? Like your teaching career that is a steady paycheck, that has health benefits, that has a pension. And my husband was a teacher too. And I said, that same steady job that my husband had, that he lost his job, talk to me about that. Their reactions were completely justified. Don't get me wrong. I completely understand where they're coming from, especially just from a place of love and concern. And it was completely genuine. And they weren't trying to hold me back from anything. They were just worried.
Yeah.
And that's a fair reaction.
Yeah.
But I knew that I couldn't continue to teach. And I knew that I needed to pursue becoming a personal stylist.
Yeah.
So I started just diving in and really looking into, okay, well, how does that happen? Because it was like, I have this idea, I'm ready for it. I knew I didn't want to work for any of the subscription services. How do I grow this business on my own? Mm-hmm. And so I started taking courses through different, fashion schools. I started connecting with different mentors who were already established image consultants and personal stylists. And after I left teaching, so I did all of that for about a year and a half while teaching at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then I left teaching and, just dove into my business. And around that time as well, I started doing some commercial styling. I did some assisting for celebrity stylists, while also having the personal styling clients as well. Because I had the same idea that you did, where I was like, well, the epitome of success for personal styling is to be a celebrity stylist. Mm-hmm. My goal was to be styling A-list celebrities until...
Was it 24/7?
It was. And then also, like, during that time, I was doing commercial styling as well. And while there were some elements to the commercial styling that I enjoyed, what I realized when I was taking that step back and examining the work that I was doing, I realized that it was the personal styling, it was the deep connection with people that really lit me up, rather than creating a beautiful look for a commercial or for a photograph, which, I still do some photo shoot styling, of course, for my clients especially, but it's that connection that I have with my one-on-one clients that is just what fuels my soul. It lights me up, and it's what I really, truly love about the work that I do. I mean, I get to play with clothes, which obviously.
Who doesn't want to do that?
So much fun. But it's the connection with people. And it's the growth, the transformation that I get to not only witness, but help facilitate and guide them through. Because, they're doing all the hard work. Like, I get to shop, which, some people will say is also difficult. But for me, it's super fun. It's all the internal work that's happening, all of the unpacking, the unlearning that they are doing about who they thought they were, what they thought they were capable of, very much like my own personal story. And being able to just give them the permission that they were seeking in order to just become their fullest expression of themselves.
100%. This is truly a calling for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have the emotional and the soft skills that takes this to a different level.
Thank
and
you.
just like saying, oh, I've found these great pair of earrings. I know we bought that for you last month. This will be great. And here's a belt. And oh, you look great. And that looks very put together. And then that's it. It's all about finding them, how they're perceived outwardly.
Yes.
But you actually connect with them and realize that through conversation and through time spent, that there's maybe a different person or the same person, but they want to come out in a different way. Going back to when you say, you get to shop for people, and do all that. Rosie was real clear that she does not want to go shopping.
Yes.
And she was in heaven because she loved the clothes that you picked for her.
She did, yeah.
But that was something that she said to both of us over and over, was like, I love that I didn't have to go shopping for these clothes. And she goes, driving to the place that you want to go to and parking and then going through the stores and even finding things and then the trying them on. And she had said this was such a safe space for her to be in and to try things on. And then you told her these would look great. She loved them and we packaged them up and then she got to go home with them. At what point did this really take off for you where you realized, or you can tell your husband, or your husband said to you, you're a growing concern. This is a business, right? How long did that take, or when did that happen for you? What was that like?
Yeah, I knew that I had to give my notice that I was leaving prior to, I think it was July 1st, with the school year wrapping up and everything. You need to give your notice by a certain date, and I'm fairly certain it's July 1st. And so I wanted to line it up with the end of a school year. And it took about a year and a half of doing both teaching and having my business where, the school year was wrapping up. And I kept having a conversation with my husband. I was like, I need to leave. I need to leave teaching. I'm ready to do this full time. I'm ready to do styling full time. It was probably 2 days before the end of the school year. And I was like, babe, I love you. I hear your concerns, but I'm not going back to teaching next year. And I'm telling my principal today. And he was just like, okay.
We're committed. We're committed, yeah.
And it was not an easy okay for him, and I respect that. And he knows how stubborn and
but he was an entrepreneur too, and I'm
was.
sure he understands the pull and the pull towards it. But the day when you're like, I am not going back to that job.
Yeah,
I am not that person anymore.
So with him, it was tricky, right? Because he was also a teacher, but the way that he left teaching, like he lost his job, and it was a really heartbreaking situation.
So he had to pivot. He had to pivot. Yeah.
He was not ready to leave. He knew that he didn't want to do teaching forever. Like it was not part of his retirement plan, but he wasn't ready to leave right then. And that was hard. So for me, I was like, get me out of here. Like I'm ready. Like, let's do this. I have a plan. I've been working on this. Here's my pivot plan.
Yeah.
We worked through it. And then he's actually no longer an entrepreneur because he realized that path was not for him. He was like, I cannot wait to work for somebody else. And I said, are you out of your mind? He's like, I just want a boss to tell me
and
what
structure.
to do. Yeah. He's a Virgo. He loves that.
There are a lot of people who love that is their best way to work and their best life is they like to know what to expect and they rock their job and they know there's no surprises.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he has been so much happier since he's been working for the company that he works for now. It's been beautiful, and I love that for him. But that was part of the freedom that I love about running my own business.
That's what I love too.
The freedom, the flexibility, and just that, while you eventually have a team, of other experts and people that you need to rely on when you have a business, it's still all about the work that you do and that you create. And so that's what I love. But, I'm so happy for him now. Now that he's out of that entrepreneurial life, that just wasn't for him. That's okay.
Well, it makes sense to me now that you've explained, what's important to him, how he gets rewarded in his work life, right?
Yeah.
And why he was supportive of you, but was nervous because what you were doing was a risk.
Yes.
And that's scary for people who like structure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But lucky you again that he said, this scares me, but I'm going to support you. And if this is what because at some point, it was something that you needed to go through.
Yeah.
And you can say, that's too much a risk for us right now, and we can't do this right now. Okay.
Yeah.
But that who you were becoming was going to come out
Yep.
in some other way. So whether you did it now or you did it a year or 2 years or 3 years later, it was still going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I knew that too.
Yeah.
And I was just ready. I was ready for it.
Yeah.
And it was just like this period of growth for me that I couldn't be contained anymore. I needed
You can't
that
keep true
flexibility.
entrepreneurs down. You
Nope.
can't. Yeah. And if you do try to keep them down, you get a really unpleasant person.
Yes.
Yes. So when was that moment when you knew you had made it?
I think it was when I was able to step away from doing the other forms of styling too. And when I just focused on my one-on-one clients. I think that's when I really felt like I settled into myself, because that was a time where I really knew the kind of people that I love to work with. And the people that I love to work with are the people that are going through a transformation. They've already done a lot of inner work, but they're feeling that same kind of disconnect from their outer expression. And they know that they're ready for more. And what that means for when I come in is really getting them to dive even deeper into that self-discovery and using clothing for that. And
It's another form of therapy.
it is, yeah. And it's the people that are open, that are ready and willing to explore different sides of themselves and explore different parts of who they are and who they're becoming, and saying, yeah, this is uncomfortable and this is a little scary, but I know it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Because it's so much about the vulnerability that comes up too. Like what you were saying about, I really appreciate what you said about how both Rosie and Laura felt so safe, because that's something that I really strive to create in my experiences with my clients, is that safe space for vulnerability, for those vulnerable conversations, because you're welcoming a stranger into your closet. And our closets hold a lot of energy, a lot of history,
That's where all the secrets are.
A lot of phrases and beliefs that we don't share with most people, or we share them in a way that seems kind of like flippant or dismissive or self-deprecating. And I don't allow any of that in my client sessions. I don't allow my clients to speak negatively about themselves or their bodies, and not in a harsh way. But if they do say something like that, I try to bring them back to what they're telling their bodies, what they're telling themselves in that moment. Because our bodies don't really know if you're joking. They hear the negativity and we internalize it, And it's a lot of rewiring that has to happen within our brains. And because so many of the beliefs that I hear from people are, when I lose the weight, I'll go shopping. And even that phrase alone says to me, and it's what you're saying to yourself when you say those things, that I'm not enough right now. That the way that my body is right now is not okay. Why? And I question that. I ask them to question that. Why do you have to be smaller to be worthy of new clothes? Yeah. Because especially as women, we're constantly being thrown all of this rhetoric that's like, be smaller, be smaller, be smaller. Whether it's about your personality or about your size, it take up less space, right? And why not? Why not embrace your body
and who you are right now
in this moment?
Yeah.
Instead of constantly looking back on when you used to be smaller and holding that as some kind of gold standard, or holding this idea of what your body should look like in order to go shopping.
Especially if it was years ago.
Oh, yes.
So even if you're thin now, your body changed. And you might not, even if you're thinner now than you were then, you're never going to look like that again.
Exactly.
Right.
And I know from my own personal experience, my body has changed quite a bit over the years.
Yeah.
And I know that I could easily look back at photos of myself when I was smaller and say, oh my gosh, I wish I looked like that. I could easily have that belief. But what I also know deep in my heart is that when I was that size, I still had problems with my body.
Still, I
And
agree. Yeah.
what happens is that we say, oh my gosh, well, I wish that I looked like I did when I was in my 20s. I wish I appreciated it then. Okay, but that's, sure, you can say that. But it's not about your size, and it's not about the number on the scale. It's about how you genuinely feel about yourself.
100%.
And
Absolutely.
you can lose the weight and still hate yourself.
Well, that whole thing, wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have unresolved issues, they're still going to be there if you're 20 pounds, 50 pounds lighter.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. But when I knew that I was going to do my best fell, one of the main cons that I had about doing this more than anything was, and I'm just going to say this, how fat I was going to look on the video. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
And then, the camera adds 10 pounds. I have had to have that same conversation with women coming on my show.
I believe it.
And they were trying to, rectify that and balance their need to get their message out there with the fear of putting themselves out there. If you're fine walking around, meeting people, talking to people, and being you out in the world, why could you not just be you as you are sitting on a chair talking to people?
Yeah.
Brene Brown, who I love, she's one of my absolute favorites. And remember when she talked about when she did that TED Talk, which is still believe is still one of the most watched TED Talks of all time, right?
Yes.
And when she read the comments that people said about the way she dressed, that she was overweight, her hair, everything, and they tore her apart. And she says, I realized that was such a small segment of the people who said that you changed my life.
Yes.
And if I have listened to that TED Talk, 100 times over because your message was what I needed to hear and it resonated in me. And that's what I was telling these women. Just remember the thing that is so fabulous about you, and that your friends and family or people who've met with you said, you have changed my life because of this. Remember that, because they see you for who you are, and it's not going to change because maybe you look 10 pounds heavier on screen. I love that is your message that you're giving people. And you gave that message to Rosie and Laura, the audience out there who want to make the change. Now they know there's avenues they can get help, but they have no money to spend.
So my favorite place for someone to start is with a question, who am I?
Yeah.
I know we touched on that a little bit earlier, but I always love to give that suggestion first of saying, who am I? And what a lot of us tend to do when we start to answer that question, you're listing the roles that you have in your life. You might be listing your job title, you might be listing how you're a parent, going through all of that. But with all of those roles set aside, who are you? You as an individual, so separating yourself from your job, from, all of your responsibilities, how would you describe yourself? Even if you can just come up with 3 to 5 things, that's huge. Yeah. Some of us, it's easy. You just go down the list and you can describe it, rattle it off, no problem. But it's not always an easy thing for people to do, especially people who have limited resources, because they are, I'm sure, often caretakers, like you said, their parents, and they can get easily caught up in everyone else, making sure everyone else is being taken care of. But they're like, oh, I want to do something for myself.
Yeah.
I want to show up differently. So by getting to that core question of who am I, being able to answer it, and then going to your closet and taking a look at your closet. And sometimes that can be daunting too when you're seeing everything in front of you. So what I like to say, instead of just looking at all of your clothes and trying to make that connection, grab, your favorite outfit. Or, your favorite couple of pieces. Maybe you don't have a favorite outfit, but you have like a favorite shirt or a favorite accessory or jewelry or shoes. And think about what it is about those pieces that you love that makes it a favorite. And then try to connect it back to who you are. Like, what part of yourself do those shoes represent? Do they maybe show off your sassier side? Do they show that you don't really show too many people? Do they maybe speak to the fact that you are a provider and that you really dive into that sense of security and, that you really need that structure and that grounded energy that those shoes maybe provide for you. Like, what is it about them? And it's not always easy, but when you do it, when you're able to figure out what parts of yourself are reflected in those pieces, it makes moving forward and really establishing a personal style or going shopping that much easier, because you can look at a piece and say, okay, well, why was I drawn to that first? And then say, okay, now what part of me does this show off? And I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally. I mean your personality.
Yeah.
Going back to those 3 to 5 words. What part of that is reflected there? And sometimes it can be multiple words.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my clothes that I choose, like, I like to describe myself as like having a softness and a warmth to me, but there's also, a fun side too. So like the top that I'm wearing today, it's very bright, very colorful, but the fabric is really soft. It's very it has more of a fluid look to it as well. So it has that, difference in the different aspects of myself that I'm bringing in to the clothes that I choose.
Well, you are very colorful and dynamic, and you have that, and you very calm, and you flow through things. So your shirt is a perfect representation of your personality.
Thank you.
I remember yesterday when Laura kept this. It was so important to her that for her shirts, that she loved the way that fabric felt on her.
Yes.
Remember, she kept touching the fabric, and she was like petting herself.
I love that.
But she did it, all the things that were very she's a very tactile person.
Yes.
Between Laura petting her sleeves and Rosie saying, "This looks like the sky." It reminds me of the sunshine in the sky. I love those were some good moments.
Me too.
Yeah, I love that. How do you find your clients?
It's interesting because, a lot of it is through referral and through social media, but honestly, Google.
Really?
Google. So I've done a lot of work on my website for SEO. But, it's people who they're looking for me. They just don't know that I exist until they start, saying like, I want somebody to shop for me, or like, I want a personal stylist, like what, even if they want help finding colors that work for them, or just not having to shop for themselves.
Yeah.
And then usually what happens is they find, of course they find my website, they find a few others, but the clients that find me and that, we choose each other are the ones that are ready to do the work that's beyond just getting new clothes.
Yeah.
Of course, I can tell you, what colors look best on you and why. And when we talk about how you like clothes to interact with your body, we can talk about fit. We can talk about what needs to be tailored. Like all of those things that fall under the umbrella of being a personal stylist. Like I have that expertise, but it's all of the inner work that then gets deeply connected into that. That's what makes me different from a lot of regular personal stylists. And that's what also makes it more sustainable, going back to our conversation about the makeover shows and why so many of those makeovers don't last. It's number one, because it's such a dramatic transformation, right? It's going from, one side of the spectrum to the other in most cases, not honoring who the person is or was at all, and also giving your preconceived notions about who they are, and then saying, okay, this is who you are now, good luck.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm about. When I might have a vision of who I want, or who my client is, or who they're going to be, but I'm not going to just shove them outside of their comfort zone right out the gate, because that would be jarring. It wouldn't be helpful for their growth, and it wouldn't be sustainable. We need to find ways to integrate their favorite pieces, just like what we were doing with Rosie and Laura, bringing back those favorite pieces. I think I also talked about incorporating like a safety blanket element, which I often do for my clients, and which allows them to feel comfortable and safe in exploring new things and trying new pieces in a way that still feels like that reflection of themselves, but doesn't feel so different that it's jarring and scary and they feel insecure, or like they're wearing a costume or borrowing someone's clothes. I never want that to feel like what's happening for them.
So unless you find out who they truly are and show them a way to bring that out, you're actually not going to be very helpful.
Exactly.
What you're going to do is find them a couple outfits, new outfits to wear, and they'll rotate those, but they won't continue to buy those kind of things because you haven't really captured, their spirit and how they want to walk forward in the world. You're working with people across the country. I mean,
Yes.
because you're from Philly, so
Yes.
yeah. I found that surprising. To me, it's such an in-person business.
It's interesting because over the years, like I started my business about 8 years ago, I have really seen it evolve. And before the pandemic, before 2020, I still had virtual clients, but I had so many more in-person clients than virtual. And now it's interesting because I have more virtual clients or clients that are not based in Philadelphia than I do in-person clients. And I think that what has happened is, obviously like I had my skill set of being able to work with clients virtually pre-2020, but then people also kind of shifted the way that they perceive virtual services as well, along with me just refining and honing in on my skills and really challenging myself to say, okay, well, how can I help people virtually and create that same kind of safe, nurturing experience that I do in person? And for me, that's about having a lot of different touch points with the clients, like along our journey. So I work with clients, for sometimes I have a 30-day period that I typically work with them, but then also beyond that, even more common is I work with clients for months, sometimes years. And it's all about what the needs and the desires of the clients are, but it's having those touch points throughout the months, making sure that they have my guidance, my support, that sometimes that additional permission that they need to give themselves, or, if they're putting an outfit together that maybe we didn't style because they're starting to kind of explore some things on their own.
Yeah.
Just sending me that selfie in the morning before they go to work, being like, this looks okay, right? Like, you approve? Can I get that Susan approval? And I'm like, I love this. Yes. Like, you look amazing. Go kill it. The root of my business and how I work with my clients is for them to be able to leave the nest. I want to see them. I want to see them fly on their own. I want them to be able to take everything that we've done together and that they've learned when they've been working along with me to be able to just go shopping and buy things that they love without needing my help,
Or without the stress.
Without the
because
stress,
now they know
exactly.
themselves better.
Yes.
They also know what fits their body best.
Yeah.
And they're able to go out there without the stress of going and shopping and not knowing what you want, but you don't really know what you want, and you try on tons of things. You go home with nothing, and you've been all over the store. Yeah. So when you can actually say, okay, I know I need a shirt. These are my 3 best colors. Even though I like that kind of top, this is what really fits me best and flatters me. So if I can get it in the material I want and the color that I want, and I'm going to go and I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I really enjoyed watching was your initial Zoom calls with Laura and Rosie. They were on their phones and they were walking you through and basically pulling things out, and you were looking at their accessories. That was a very cozy thing. I was thinking about when I was watching the closet sessions, that's what we'll call them.
Love it.
Do you also do just closet cleanouts where I say to you, I have all these clothes, I can't get rid of them, I spent a lot of money on them, or they have a sentiment, I wore them to this event, or I bought it for this thing and I have sentimental attachment. I don't really need to buy a whole new wardrobe or anything like that, but I just need someone to help me go through my clothes because there's things here that I need to get rid of.
The does it fit question can be tricky because, for a lot of us, our weight tends to fluctuate in, different directions. So my rule around fit is if we love it, if it already checked that box, and the fit is one size up or one size down from what you typically wear, like it's just a little bit too small or a little bit too big.
That's doable.
Then hold on to it, especially if it's something that it fits sometimes when, your body is going through this kind of phase versus another. Or it's also very easy to connect with the tailor and get that alteration made. Lastly is if it's sentimental. Some people have guilt around getting rid of pieces that maybe they received as a gift too, but they don't love it, it doesn't fit, but then they're like, ugh, does this count as sentimental? That can be tricky too. Where I bring in the idea of sentimental is if it really holds special, deep, meaningful value. And sometimes that's a piece that belonged to a loved one who has passed. or that you wore something deeply meaningful, or it just really brings you a lot of joy when you see it, like, it's okay to have some pieces like that. There's no shame in holding on to those pieces. But it's the additional clutter. Pajamas, workout clothes, and underwear is we get to a point in the pile where we're like, okay, time to do laundry, even though there's still all of this left.
You're wearing three things or
You're
one
wearing-
thing.
Exactly. So yes, it's definitely a process of, like how we go through the closet together, going through questions like that, making sure that they're connecting it back to who they are. And then when we get rid of all of those pieces, the pieces that don't fit, that we don't like, that we're not wearing because we don't like it or it doesn't fit.
And it does keep you on budget, and you spend less money. Like investing in someone helping you with your personal style actually saves you money in the long run.
100%.
You'll make that money back.
I mean, the way that my long-term packages work is we have monthly sessions, and we always discuss budget ahead of time. So I'm always working around your budget. And I make you stick to it as long as it's something that you feel firmly about. Sometimes clients are like, no budget. And I'm like, okay, awesome, amazing, love that too. But when they do have some months where they need to be a little bit more stricter with their spending, then that's where we say, okay, well, then this is what our priorities are. And again, it's like coming back to that idea of intention.
I have things in my closet that I bought because I love the brand, and it was such a good deal. And I liked it. But I mostly bought it because it was such a good deal. It's like, I have to buy this. And I haven't worn them. But there are things that I've held on to that I will never use them again, or I will never wear them again. So this is a good reminder for me too, to just let stuff go. That doesn't serve you. When you go back to the Susan, where you knew that change was coming, you were feeling it inside of you, and you knew that you were moving kind of into your next best self. What words of advice or motivation would you have for somebody to get them through and get them through that fear of failure, or that take that risk and move to the other side and start their journey?
Love that question. I think that what I would suggest is thinking about everything that's possible. I think a lot of us get caught up in the fear of what could happen, and that holds us back from pursuing the things that we truly want to do. And when you're fear-based, you can come up with countless reasons why you shouldn't do something. But when you just have that little bit of a mindset shift, that little question that is in the back of your mind that's saying, but what if things go better than you expected?
Absolutely.
And allowing yourself to ask that question and answer it, sit with it, feel it in your body, feel how it interacts with your energy, and you'll feel that same kind of fire that you already have within you that's already leading you to that next phase. And that is what you can always come back to, especially when the fears kind of come up, because they will. That's just how it happens. But if you challenge those fears every time with, but what if things go better than I expected? Just so many more opportunities open for you.
It's the what if game. What if you have a little period of struggle, which we're expecting, and then it all starts to happen for you. You put in the work, you show up, and what if it starts going in the direction you need it to be? You are going to come out of it on the other side a better version of yourself.
100%.
I mean, I don't think I've ever met anyone who had some sort of setback or failure who didn't learn at least one lesson that made it easier for them to move forward.
Exactly. Well, look at your life and all the different paths that you've taken, all the little stops along the way, and how each one of those elements has supported you and given you another just strength or skill set that has made you a better version of you. I've looked back on my own career, starting with my very first job when I was in high school, and connecting those dots for myself and seeing like what I've been able to take along the way, what I learned from that job and this job and moving forward and life experiences. And I think if we're constantly open to a state of growth and healing and self-reflection, then that makes just going through life with, failure being a possibility, but not letting failure be something that's holding you back from even trying.
And what if you find out something, like what if you find out that there's another version of you that makes you happier?
Exactly.
Right? And you will never know that person's in there if you don't try.
Yeah.
And I will caveat what we're saying with, there are some people, the thought of risk is just so great that puts them in a state of anxiety and stress that it's just not worth it. Yeah. And so there are times when maybe trying to move into your, taking your idea and moving it forward, or trying to move into your next self, maybe it's just who you are now and the world that you have is truly the best version of yourself. But even that you won't discover unless you try to move forward and try, and then you're like, no, I'm glad that I did that. And maybe it's not becoming an entrepreneur, but maybe it's like one little thing. You have to step out of your comfort zone to make that little voice inside of you be realized in some way. So you don't have to, I guess that's what I'd say, you don't have to go big all the time.
No, of course not.
You don't have to go big.
So I would never want to get to a later part of my life and have regrets about the things that I didn't try to pursue, especially something that I felt so deeply passionate about. Yeah. And that's why I think, it's important, obviously, to sit and weigh out your decisions, especially if you have a family or if you have major financial responsibilities or children, and you want to be responsible about all of that. But being able to sit with it and say, okay, can I do this? And what happens if it all goes right?
Yeah. I have loved having you out here for this visit.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Too.
It's been absolutely fun and enlightening.
Thank you.
And I wish you continued success in what you're doing. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please enjoy our bonus episode where Susan will work her process with two of our guests, and then the ladies will sit down and share their experience of working with a personal stylist for the first time. So ladies, how was it? Did you have fun?
It was great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah.
definitely a different experience having like somebody else pick out all my clothes and the makeup, and it was fun.
Laura,
Hi, Diana. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you in person, not virtually. Come on in. This is going to be fun.
I'll kind of talk you through what I found based on our conversation. The scarf I remember.
Yeah, the scarf I bought in Nepal. I think I showed you this piece,
Yes.
which is just a nice little cover up.
Anything you don't like, because that can be helpful to know too.
I don't like a lot of makeup.
Great. Use it where you might need it. And then this is a good reason why. Because there's a camera. Absolutely. Just gonna put a little clip on that side, and then we'll go to the other side. Do you have any changes or anything?
No, it looks great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, this will be Laura, take one.
What I was thinking back to in our conversation is how important functionality is for you.
I can wear it to work, I can layer it, I can wear it hiking, so it checks all the boxes.
I found this gorgeous mauve, like lighter Mr. Puffy. Now, this is yours, which I just, again, love. I love the brightness, I love the turquoise, the teals that are in here too. And I thought that this got this like beautiful mint t-shirt.
Okay.
You have a little bit of skepticism in your face. Talk to me about what you're thinking.
I don't typically describe myself as a mint person.
Okay.
So I'll be curious to see how it works.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I never would pick mint for myself. So
I love that. I got us a white t-shirt kind of as a base, a little basic. And I love the weight of this too. It has some texture to it, which I think is nice.
oh, I love how that feels.
Right?
Yeah.
So what I loved about this is how, especially with the material, with it being almost like a mesh outer layer,
That's so cool.
it's again something that even though it looks so elevated and formal, you could wear this, if you're transitioning from one thing to the next.
Okay.
I know we talked on our call about having layers
Yeah.
that you can wear on their own, or you can wear it kind of as a shacket, like an outer layer, like over shirt, similar to how you're wearing them.
Yep.
This one, which has a little bit more of a heavier weight to it, I want you to feel it. This is so soft.
Oh, it is so soft. I just want to pet it.
Right? If you wanted to keep it a little bit more neutral, we do a white t-shirt.
Okay.
If we want to mix it up a little bit, we do the questionable mint. A gray pant, which, I mean, you're just gonna, I hope you're as excited about these pants as I am, because I'm like, stylish cargo pants? I'm here for it. What are you most excited to try first?
Oh, probably the floral top.
Yeah?
With,
I can't wait.
Whatever else you give me.
Perfect, I love that.
What was the thing that you really wanted to get out of this?
I wanted to have fun and have a new experience. So I probably alluded to this before. I'm on the edge of being a stylish person. I aspire to that. So it was just kind of fun to think about seeing what's going on out there and like having somebody else pick a bunch of clothes for me.
Yeah. So what about you, Rosie? What were you hoping to get out of it? I mean, what was your impetus for saying, okay, Diana, I'll be one of your volunteers?
Yeah, for me it was like, what is the best way I can up-level my looks? It was like, having some professional give me some advice on what looks good, what doesn't look good. I don't go shopping much, so I wanted some professional advice in a way.
Yeah.
Hey Diana, how are you?
Oh, Rosie, it's so good to see you.
Yeah, same here.
Are you excited?
Yes, a lot excited.
You're gonna have fun. Okay, come on in. I knew I was missing some of it. I could hurt, and I'm like, I think I'm missing something there.
I've got better things to do, right?
Wrist.
It's easier for you. If really you can do a lot of like curl products, go ahead and take a look in the mirror. What do you think? Good?
Awesome.
Awesome.
Based on the conversation that we had, with your love of color, I really wanted to make sure that we were incorporating that mix and match and incorporate all of these different pieces so that getting dressed is not just easy, but it's fun and it's effortless. It's a two-piece suit, with a gorgeous little like sleeveless shell of a dress. With your beautiful scarves, like even, this one, which I know you were showing me earlier. With your coloring, I would recommend something that's a little bit closer to a cream. This has like just a hint of it, like it's almost like a vanilla.
I would normally pick this and then I won't like mix and match.
Right.
And this color, I love it, but it reminds me of what I wear at home for India,
Yes.
my Indian colors. At office, I would have never picked it up, so I would love to try it how it looks for office.
This is something that would be really easy to wear together and it would still be really chic. I cannot wait to see this on you. How much you love florals, so I had to bring in a floral blouse, and I loved this combination. Okay, let's get you in your first outfit.
Awesome.
Was the process what you thought it was going to be with talking to her at first? Because I know that can actually be a little uncomfortable. You didn't know Susan, right? And you're having this Zoom call and she's like, take me into your closet. And it also gets a little bit deeper than just saying, I don't want to wear anything with elastic. I don't want to wear anything that's, too flamboyant. But you actually have to start getting open with how you feel about yourself, how you perceive yourself to be, if you have body issues. Because that all comes into play with what we select and what we don't select when we're shopping, right? We have things in our closet that we know that we will never fit, but we cannot let them go. There are items of clothing that, that I have as well that I want to fit into them someday, but it was 100,000 years ago. And even if I dieted and, jogged every second of the day, there's no way my body is that body anymore, right? She was not just saying, oh, do you like red and you like purple and you don't wear belts? Okay, I'll take care of that. She wanted to talk to you about basically your relationship with clothing. Were you expecting that? Was that hard for you to talk about, or was that just something that you found that you really enjoyed?
She was, pretty easy to talk with. And she was listening actually on what I was saying. So I felt that connection. I felt like, she wants to help and she really wants to bring that unique you in you, right? Kind of unique me in me. So I really liked that.
That's something that I noticed when I was watching the process and your videos. And it was really important to Susan that she wasn't telling you what she thought you should wear. Mm-hmm. She really listened to what you said. And the pieces that you were trying on, each of them were picked because of something that you had told her. When I first talked to Susan about this process, I was a little skeptical that she was going to be able to connect with you and really understand what you needed and really get an idea of who you are because it was just virtual. Mm-hmm. But after watching your videos, I feel like it was totally on point. Do you guys?
I do.
Yeah, I feel like she captured it. And again, like Susan did, she went through your closets. She supplemented what you have. What is your biggest takeaway from today? What did you like the most?
I enjoy discovering clothing and looks that make me feel on the outside how I feel on the inside, 100%. Which is not, I joke all the time about like how decrepit and old I am, and I'm not that old, but I am older than I was, and I'm certainly older on the outside than I feel on the inside. Mm-hmm. And so being able to remain and continue to marry the two inner and outer me's, super fun.
100%. As we age, we still feel, there's a certain age inside of us that we feel. Mm-hmm. And almost all of my friends, male and female, feel the same way. Like I feel like I'm in my my late 30s, early 40s, right? That was a really good time for me too. Yeah. I'd say more 30s, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not that I want to dress like I'm in my 30s. We want to look age appropriate, but we don't want to look old. And even if it's changing up one piece, like that's one of the things that I loved was Susan was saying, you're now wearing things that this is what you said you liked. Mm-hmm. You don't really want to stray that much away from it. Mm-hmm. But she would add like the color, or she added just one little element that kind of popped it up a little bit. Would you recommend this to your friends and family? Say this is something, especially if they're struggling, they're changing jobs, they just lost weight. Mm-hmm. Would you recommend this process, or do you think this is just a fun thing to do?
Some of the dresses that I tried today, I would have never tried them. Yeah. Means I'll go, when I go shopping or if I see it online, I'll look and just walk by. So it gave me that flexibility. And other thing I learned is you can mix and match. Actually, mm-hmm. You don't have to buy complete sets, and that's how it goes, right? So there were like subtle things which I learned today. So I would definitely recommend if somebody wants to learn about the things that you might not have learned through other ways, right?
Yeah. And even for you, Laura, when you were trying on some things, they fit well, but you didn't like the color. Or you love the color and it didn't fit exactly like we might think that it fit you perfectly. Mm-hmm. But if you don't feel good in it, you're not going to wear it. Mm-hmm. You're going to buy it and it's going to sit in your closet. Yep. And then you're not going to get rid of it because you paid for it, right? You're like, that's money right there, right? When you guys put on certain things, it was real clear, not just to us, but we could tell by the way that you were reacting that you're like, this feels good. Mm-hmm. I like this. Yeah.
Rosie, take 2.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
Gosh, that's so gorgeous. How do you feel? What do you think about it? I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, it looks wonderful. I would have never thought that I can pick this color and go with it. So it looks really good. Yeah, I felt good wearing this. I don't wear sleeveless. I try to put something on it. But with this one, somehow the shape of this makes me I feel more comfortable like wearing this.
Tell me your thoughts.
It's blue, so it's the color of the sky, ocean, stars. It just makes me feel happy. But the print reminded me of back home and very, very comfortable. Right, and the color also, I loved it.
Rosie, I loved working with you. You're stunning, and you just want your clothes to just add to that, and that's truly how they should just make you feel.
I really love the shirt.
Yeah, your thoughts. Tell me what do you think?
So I love Miss Pink.
Oh, that's her name. Okay, we named her.
Now,
Miss Pink and Mr. Puffy.
Yeah. I do like the colors a lot, and having more of a girly, let's say Pacific Northwest plaid flannel. Mm-hmm. It's nice.
Yeah.
It is nice, and I can cut myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We feeling? And defresh.
And I tucked.
I know. I'm excited. I'm so proud. I'm so proud.
I'm still on the fence about tucking, so.
Okay, that's fine. Love this on you. I mean, I know that the outer piece is yours. Obviously, we're both big fans of it, but I love it with the mint.
Okay.
The show is going to be gifting you an outfit, your favorite outfit. So I'm glad that you have so many favorites.
Well, I love the pants. I love this guy, but I also love Miss Pink. Thank you so much.
It's truly my pleasure. It's been so wonderful working with you.
Yeah.
And I want you to just, moving forward, when you go shopping or when you're getting dressed, thinking about not just the practicality of the pieces, but, just trying things that might be a little bit different from what you're used to.
Can I give you a hug?
Of course, I would love a hug. Oh, thank you.
You had a hard time picking your favorite outfit. That was a good sign because you get to go home with those. The show's giving you those outfits, right?
Yay.
So I love that. Yeah. Because I was nervous. I mean, I believe in Susan and I trust her, but you never know what's going to happen if you're going to I'll take this scarf. Or yeah, I like these earrings. I love that you guys stepped forward, raised your hand, and volunteered because I had put it out there on several social media channels. So I appreciate so much that you said you would because we couldn't have done the show without you. Do you have anything that you would like to say to somebody who's considering this? Like if somebody's on the fence, do you have, each of you have something that you would say to convince that person to do it?
I actually did not quite expect to get out of it what I got out of it because as been noted, I'm in a very casual work environment. I work from home a lot, which is also, by the way, super casual. Not a lot of dressing up at my house. So just the concept that I should get out there and try new clothes for such a really very low-key lifestyle that I live, it has been super fun. Because it's also a little bit like the conversation of a little bit of inner and outer and matching the two. So from that perspective, if you feel out there that there's a disconnect, explore it. Find it, look at it, figure it out, reconnect it.
Very well said. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
If you're feeling restless, you're feeling frustrated, maybe you're kind of crabby and bitchy or you're crying or whatever, those are all signs that change is trying to happen. But when you are wearing something that truly represents you and makes you feel confident about yourself, you walk through the world differently. Laura talked about just because I'm wearing low-key clothes or more casual clothes, I still have fashion choices. It's not that I have to wear boring clothes because I'm in construction. You now know that you can wear great pants and great flannel tops, right? We love that flannel top, right? So what about you, Rosie?
When I talked to you, Diana, I was thinking, should I come? Not, right? I was thinking. But once I talked to Susan, I was like, okay, I'm going to try it out. It takes an effort to try it out, but I felt it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
So I would just, if somebody is double-minded or not sure whether they should, I would say, just do it and see whether you like it or not. And I would say you'll be pleasantly surprised.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I remember when you and I were talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Laura and I, it was pretty definite when we initially connected that you were going to do this. And I know that for you, you were like asking so many questions, and I knew that you were on the fence and stuff. And so I'm glad that you decided that. You're like, I could tell that you were like, yeah, this could be fun. This could be a good thing. So yeah, I'm excited for you guys to see the show when we put it together. Yeah. It was a good day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was a real pleasure.
It was fun. Would you like to be a guest on our show? If you have a story to tell, send us an email at contact@mybestfell.tv. If we think it's a good fit, we'll reach out. Today's episode of My Best Fell was created by Director of Photography, Aaron Castillo, Sound, Brian Binning, Gaffer, Billy Miller, Makeup and Hair, Lindsay Watkins and Marissa Loya, and Catering by Sarah Bailey.